Hello and welcome to another episode of the Virtuous Jedi. Today we're going to dive into the queries. This is something that a lot of people, it sends them into, heart palpitations. They get really worried about the query tool, really anxious and overwhelmed. One of the reasons for that is what is called a nested query. Now, I think nested queries are great. They allow you to do some really powerful reporting, but they can be intimidating if you're not used to doing queries or building that type of logic. So today I'm going to talk about a few different use cases for a nested query, so you can kind of get a sense of maybe how this might be applicable for you, and just give you some visualizations on how this could work in Virtuous. All right, so let's hop into the query tool. So the first thing that you'll notice when you go to build a new query is there are a lot of query types. So the reason that there are so many types is because Virtuous allows you to query on any type of object that exists in the database. And each object has its own set of parameters. So a contact might have an address, might have some tags, a relationship. That's very different than a project, which has a location and a project code. So it's not always possible to get all of the things you want out of a single query. You first have to find the query type that's associated with the thing that you're searching for. And then the second thing is you can actually use things in combination with each other by using nested queries. So a really, really common one I hear, I want to know all of the dollars that I brought in last year. And I also want to know how many unique contacts gave those dollars. So let's run that. First thing that I need to do is I need to find out the dollars. I need to find out all of the gifts that came in. So I'm going to call this last year giving. Really unique title here. And then we're going to just run a one-line simple query. It's going to be gift date between, and then we'll run it for the last calendar year. Let's do January 1 of 22 through December 31st. Okay, so pretty common setup. We want to know all the gifts that came in some time period. You can run this for any time period that you want. So if I view my results here, I'll see all of the gifts, individual gifts that came in during that time period, right? So I had 1,696 gifts here in my sandbox during 2022, bringing in just a little under $1 million. Now, you'll quickly realize when you start running this type of gift report is that it's going to output a single row for every gift. So that's the thing about those query types. When you're running a query and choosing the query type that you want to run, you always have to be mindful of the fact that whatever you chose as your type, that's what you're going to get a single row for each value for, right? So we chose a gift query, we're going to get a row per gift, not a row per contact, right? A contact could be a recurring donor. They could have given you multiple gifts during that time period. They're going to appear in here multiple times in that case because they gave multiple gifts. It's a gift query. We're summarizing those gifts by row, and so we're going to have duplicates. So this gives me part of my question, right? I wanted to know the dollars that came in last year. Gift query is great for that. I know how many gifts came in. I know how many dollars, but I don't know how many unique contacts, right? So I'm going to go back out to my query tool, and this is where the power of nested queries come in. So I'm going to build another new query. This one, we're going to choose contact because I wanted to know the number of unique donors, right? We're going to call this donors last year, another really unique title. And I'm just going to do one simple line, right? These queries are really simple. You can make them more complex if you really want to filter your data down, but at the high level, they're very simple. We're just going to do one line. We're going to use the field contacts. And this allows us to grab a different type of query and nest it into this one. So we're going to say, show me all of the contacts that were in my last year gifts or last year giving. And that's it, right? So what it's going to do now is it's going to run the gift query, and it's going to find all the unique gifts, and then it's going to return one row per unique contact because we're in a contact query. So if I view this results page, a lot less donors than gifts, right? We had thousands of gifts. We only had 344 contacts who gave us those 1,800 gifts, right? So from here, this is where I can export a mailing list, or I can do a bunch of other things from the contact side that I can't always do from the gift side. You'll also notice that the download options are a little bit different. You do get some crossover here. You can usually export some type of contact statistics from a gift query, things like that. But there will be things that will be unique to a contact query versus a gift query. Obviously, in a gift, you'll be able to export gift-specific things like the gift amount, the gift date, project designation, all of that fun stuff. So that is a really simple example of a nested query. You build your gift query to find your giving data. You build a contact query to find your unique contacts who make up that giving data. Another really common one that I build all the time for clients is a query that helps find active recurring supporters. So on a gift, the way that we can tell if someone is an active recurring supporter is that on their gift, they're going to have a recurring commitment. So let's just look at my record here. So you'll see I have 2 recurring commitments here on the side. One is past due, one is up to date. So technically, I have 2 active commitments, right? They're both in an active phase. Even if it's past due, it's still technically active until it's been canceled. So I would be considered a recurring active donor. To find that data, to be able to link into that, we can't do that necessarily from a contact query. We do have a few fields in a contact query. Let's just jump into one and see what our options are. So if I search for recurring, I can do things like find the last recurring gift date of a contact, their first recurring gift date, things like that, like how many recurring gifts came in the last fiscal year. Those are somewhat helpful. But what you may find is that you want to know some year-over-year statistics, like how many recurring donors did I have in this time versus this time. These options here are not going to get you there. The best way that we can do this is to nest a recurring gift query. So let's go ahead and build that. We'll go back out to our query tool, go to new query here, and down here in the gift section, we have a recurring gift query. So I'm going to call this active recurring gifts. So this will be a 2-line query. We're going to filter on the status of those recurring gifts. So you saw on mine, we had an up to date and a past due. Those are both statuses. So we'll say status is not canceled, because we don't want any of those. And then status is not fulfilled, thereby leaving us with status is up to date or status is past due. So if I run this, I will see all of my unique recurring commitments in the system. We've got 345. Most of them are past due because it is my sandbox. So there are 345 recurring commitments that my organization has. As you saw in my record though, you can have some contacts who have more than one commitment, so we don't necessarily have 345 recurring donors. To find our recurring donors, we'll do the exact same thing. We'll go back out to our query tool. This will be our active recurring supporters. And then we're just going to nest a query again. So contacts is our field that are in our active recurring gifts query. And that's all there is to it. So if I view my results here, I'm going to see less than 345. There's actually 143. I probably need to cancel some people's recurring gifts. So I could then use this query to do things like build an automation that automatically tags people if they have an active recurring commitment, and then automatically removes that tag when the commitment is canceled or fulfilled. I could also use this to add a tag directly from the query screen, and I know that I'm adding a tag to all of my active recurring supporters. So this same logic applies throughout the query tool. You are able to nest other query types into contact queries, into individual queries. Let's look at a reverse example here. Let's say I want to see all of the gifts in my record that are just from households. I want to exclude foundations. I want to exclude organization records. So if we're in a gift query, we are not actually able to filter on contact type. Contact type is not a field that's available in a gift query. It is available in a contact query. So let's build a contact query. I'm just going to title this filter household contacts. And this will be a one-line query that we're just going to pull in anyone with a contact type equal to household. So now I'll pull in all of my contacts in my system. I've got 456 that have the type of household. Great. So now I can go back to my query tool, and we're going to do a gift query because we want to know all of our giving numbers from our household contacts. And we'll call this household, or let's do year to date household giving. So now we can nest that filter that we just built. So we can say in a gift query, show me all of the contacts that are in my filter, and the gift date is on or after this calendar year, right? Our year to date. So now what Virtuous is going to do is it's going to run that contact query to find all of the households, and then it's only going to return gifts from those contact records. And then we can add additional filters like the gift date being on or after this calendar year to get the exact result that we're looking for. So now when I run this, I had the 340 or so household records. They've given 922 gifts this year, and I can see those giving totals down at the bottom. So hopefully that's really helpful to understand how you can start to use nested queries. It can get a little complex. You want to be careful not to nest too many times. If you nest in a query and then you reference that nested query in another one, and then you kind of build these chains of queries that can take really long time to load, you might run into some loop issues. So really, I recommend only nesting about 1 or 2 levels deep, just to make sure that your queries run quickly and efficiently, and that you don't run into those errors. But it can be really powerful to bring in all these different data types in the system and then use all of those as filters when necessary. So you're not limited when you're looking at a contact query and going, well, shoot, how do I filter this by this other thing? Like I can't figure out if this is an active recurring donor or not. Well, that's great. There's another query type that you can use that actually drills down exactly where you want, and then you can combine those two together. So that's the power of nested queries. They're really helpful for reporting. They're really helpful for building automations and distribution lists and all of those other things that you need to do in the system. It just takes a little bit of a learning curve to get yourself up to speed and comfortable building those into your queries. So hopefully you found this helpful. I would love to know if you have any questions, if you've got specific use cases where you're trying to nest queries or trying to combine data that you just can't figure out how to connect. Let me know. Let me know in the comments or send me an email. That's all for this video. Until next time, may the fundraising force be with you.